The Metro on 1019 WDET FM. I'm Tia Graham. The music, once sung by enslaved Africans, is foundational to modern Christian and gospel music. The music that was once used to give hope to the enslaved is being preserved in various places throughout the country, including right here in the city of Detroit. In 1972, the Brazil Denard Chorale was founded by Brazil Denard, an American educator and arranger amongst so many other things. His main goal was to remember the people who created and sung the music. Denard wanted to discover new musicians while preserving the spiritual music of the African American experience and culture. On the evening of October 29th, 1978 in Detroit, the first classical roots concert took place, led by Paul Freeman. The concert included the best musicians in the area, local leaders, and spiritual leaders. And this year marks 48 years of Classical Roots Concert. It also marks 25 years of the Dr. Arthur L. Johnson Honorable Damon Jerome Keith Classical Roots Gala Experience. I have a little bit of a clip here that goes into what we'll be listening to and understanding and breaking down with Dr. Washington. That's a little clip of Lift Every Voice and Sing, which was performed at one of the recent concerts of Classical Roots. And I'm so excited the Detroit Symphony Orchestra is honoring that legacy with an exhibition. 50 Years of Classical Roots, a multi-year immersive exhibition that will end in 2028 with the celebration of the concert's longevity and success in preserving the art form. Dr. Daniel Washington is a bass baritone and tenured professor of music at the University of Michigan. Dr. Washington is also a board member for the National Association of Negro Musicians and president of the Detroit Musicians Association. LaToya Cross is communications and advancement content specialist at Detroit Symphony Orchestra. Both join me now in studio to talk more about the exhibition and the importance of diversity within classical music. Thank you both, LaToya and Dr. Washington, for being here today.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thanks for having us, Tia.
Of course. So, LaToya, jumping in, beginning with you, as you've just heard in the intro, you all are celebrating. First, let's talk about 50 Years of Classical Roots, the exhibition, which will be on display through 2028. Explain a little bit about this exhibition.
Yes, so the exhibition, it's 50 Years of Classical Roots, the exhibition. And what it is taking you really into that first concert experience. So what we did was we have 3 sections. The first is the concert where we have an oral history. Then we also have the celebration, which expounds on when the gala experience that came in 2001. And so we're honoring a lot of those who spearheaded that, Dr. Arthur L. Johnson, and other committee members. And so we have our co-chairs as well. And so that really takes you into what that gala experience is like. And it really is foundational to the beginning of Classical Roots, where it was the community members, artists, musicians coming together to really bring an experience that spoke to Black people, that spoke to the church, but that also brought the orchestra to the people. And so the celebration leans into our award ceremony as well, where we honor civic leaders, Lifetime Achievement Award winners, artistry. And then we have our Impact and Legacy section as well, which from the very first concert to the establishment of the celebration in 2001, and what's come from that. So we have our African American Orchestra Fellowship. We have different educational and community programs as well. And so the Impact and Legacy talks about everything that has led up to this moment and where we can go forward.
We're definitely going to get into the success of the last 50 years of the concert series and what it's actually been able to produce within the community, but also just for the Detroit Symphony Orchestra altogether. So we're definitely going to get into that. But I do want to talk to you a little bit about the celebration and why you all decided to structure it the way you structured it, because 1978 marks 50 years actually. So we're starting a little bit early. So why are we starting a little early?
Yes, so 1978 to 2028 is the 50 year for the first concert. This year is the 25th anniversary of the Classical Roots celebration. And so the exhibition really speaks to that 25 years. So those are the community members who came together to say, hey, we need to figure out, we really want to create something beyond just a one-night only experience. We really want to create something that brings, that's about community, that's about the people, that's about the music, and so we still have those spiritual undertones mixed with classical, and then we get, and then you get just an abundance of, other sounds and artistry and everything too. And so this year is really the start of that 50-year conversation. And so that's why within the exhibition we create the foundation with kind of a reimagining of what Bethel AME, what that experience felt like. We have the pews there where people can sit down and listen to that oral history, where Dr. Washington narrates us through, along with Wayne Brown and Beverly Thomas, who was one of the first chorale members in Brazil de Nard and performed on that first concert. So they take you through that experience. And so that really lays a strong foundation leading up to the 50th. And then where we get into the celebration portion, that's really in honor of this year, of this 25th anniversary of our co-chair committee members, because to back it up a little bit, Classical Roots also has a steering committee. So it's a Classical Roots steering committee. Dr. Washington and I are part of the Legacy Subcommittee. And so that's really where this work comes alive and comes together. And so it's staff from the DSO and community, mixed with civic and community leaders who really think and work together. It's collaborative action, to bring it all together. So that's why we start the conversation in this 25th year. And then we'll build upon, we'll expand a bit leading up to the 50th. So this is to get the energy stirring. Yeah. Just like that energy was hitting in that first concert experience, this is how we're doing it this year.
I love the idea of having pews lined up, and you can just hear, music from then, but then also just hear the narration by Dr. Washington, who's sitting across from us right now. We're going to bring you into the conversation as well. But to hear you talking about this legacy, this history, Dr. Washington, you're a legend in your own right. You're a legend in your own right. Let's just take a brief look back at history of Black composers. When Classical Roots concerts debuted in 1978, what were some of the origins of that concert series? Why was it so important?
Well, it's great to be here, and one of the reasons it's so important is that there was a time when African-American composers, especially composers of classical music, weren't presented in the concert hall. There was always blues and jazz and other genres of music by Black composers. But now, in that year, in 1978, they decided, Brazil de Nard and Paul Freeman both decided that we needed to find more music by Black composers. And so that concert happened because of that. And it opened the door for us to be able to hear music by William Grant Still, by Hale Smith, prominent Black composers of the time. William Grant Still is known as the Dean of African American Composers. And so it was great for him to be on that first concert, his music to be on that first concert. And his music was on the last concert, this past concert. So we were trying to go full circle and making sure that Black composers get their due.
And why do you think or believe the annual Classic Roots concert has lasted for nearly 5 decades?
Because of the importance of what our mission is. Yeah. It's amazing that so many people of all races and creeds aren't aware of the contributions of Black composers to classical music. And that goes back to the time of Mozart even. There was a composer who was born in France, Chevalier de Saint-Georges, who wrote music, was a composer, and some of his music has been has resurfaced and has been performed. And then there's the music of Florence Price, who's a wonderful composer, an African-American composer, female composer, who has done wonderful music. And those gems have been lost. And part of classical roots and classical music is to try to rejuvenate that music and bring that music to the fore.
This is the Metro. I'm Tia Graham. We're talking about 50 years of classical roots, the exhibition. Our guests are LaToya Cross and Dr. Daniel Washington. Both are on the steering committee for the exhibition and celebration. Now, Dr. Washington and LaToya, I pulled this clip of the Brazil Denard Chorale singing "Oh, Freedom," arranged by Denard. Now, Dr. Washington, listening to the music personally, I had very little understanding of the foundations of Christian music and gospel music as well. But then listening to this, I heard it instantly. Why do you think this particular part of history has gone underreported, the African-American foundations to Christian and gospel music?
Well, I think that the reason that is underreported is for the same reason that African-American inventions and scientists have been underreported. Our history is American history, but it often isn't included in American history. And our composers and our music is part of that, unless it's jazz. The spiritual is really the beginnings of all American music, all African American music. It starts with the spiritual. And as we know, the spiritual was music that came out of the enslaved who wanted to have a way of practicing their religion, but also a way of communicating and of passing on secrets. So the spiritual is something that's very important to the history of Black music.
Now, Dr. Washington, when we spoke a little bit earlier, we spoke yesterday, and you had thoughts on the meanings between elite and elitism. And we went through that, and I really thought about that all last night. A quick definition for those. Elite means a person or a group of people who hold tremendous skills or skill sets or talents. For example, LeBron James is an elite basketball player. And elitism is the belief or ideology that a group is inherently better. We understand how a musician can be elite, but the term elitism, how does it show up in classical music or in the genre?
Well, it shows up in terms of how people react to elitism. And that has become a dirty word. And even being elite has become a dirty word. Yeah. But all of us want to be the best that we can possibly be at whatever our profession is. And African Americans have not been allowed to be a part of that conversation throughout history. And that's true in every part of history. So one of the things that the Classical Roots mission is to bring this music, the elite part of the music, to everybody, and to do away with the elitism. And that's one of the things that we're trying to do. And I think that we do a fantastic job of it. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's still so popular. It's also popular because we reach out into the community and talk to students. We try to get students involved in the public schools. So there's a reason that it's still popular, and one of those is that people want to know, they want to see and know about composers of color that are excellent. LaToya, bringing you back into the conversation, Detroit Symphony Orchestra has made it their goal and mission to get into the community more. You know, you have DSO in the park and DSO at the Science Center. It's been in several different spaces across Detroit and Metro Detroit, just to give people a little bit of a taste of what classical music can bring to their lives. And you talked briefly about how you felt when you first heard it and really was immersed within classical music. Can you talk about the importance of bringing it to all people and making sure that classical music is for everyone?
Yeah, music is transformative. It is feeling, it is soul, it is heartbeat, it is all these things, and we hear it all genres all the time. You know, and so I've been with the DSO about 4 years now, and like when I'm going into spaces and people of all generations, the impacts that that they share, that the music has on them. From if they hear that I work at the DSO, it jogs the memory from their first experience walking into orchestra hall, or experiencing a young person's concert, or seeing the DSO out in the community somewhere. And even classical roots, the fellowship that happens there, the style, the conversations that classical roots gala, brings, and it's very intergenerational. And so I was speaking to a girl the other day, and she was saying, I love classical music. It is, we look for ways to connect us. We look for ways that allow us to feel, to allow us to remember, think beyond. And I think that this music does that, and now the way that we're mixing it in with other genres as well, we're getting funky with it. We have, artists like Black Bach,
exactly,
definitely doing his thing, has a beautiful relationship with the DSO. We've had Jessie Montgomery, who's come through. We've had Jessica Care-Moore, and Devon Tynes, conducted by Nazir McFadden, who was there before. And so we're bringing in all of these different elements that really levels up and expands the genre. And music is for all. It's just lead with curiosity, be open to things, and it leads you to a world of of newness and discovery. And so it's opened my world. I have a cousin and family members. My whole family is arts and education, and so I've gotten into it even more because she was playing violin, so she was around all these programs going to the DSO as well. And so it's a beautiful thing. Music is powerful. Music is impactful. And that's why it's for all.
In my last 30 seconds, Dr. Washington, how does it all tie into the original mission of preserving and extending the legacy of Black American contributions to classical music? And I'm talking about the exhibition, the celebration, 50 years of classical roots.
Well, it all ties together because it's part of what we do. And music is everywhere. Classical music is everywhere. It's in commercials all the time. And we just don't recognize it as classical music. I mean, I recognize it, but most people don't. So it's everywhere. And I think that one of the things that we want to do is make sure that people are aware of the contributions of African-American composers and what they've done to further the genre of classical music.
Dr. Daniel Washington is a bass baritone and a tenured professor of music at the University of Michigan. LaToya Cross is communications and advancement content specialist at Detroit Symphony Orchestra. Thank you both for joining us on the Metro today.
Thank you.
Right now, we're listening to another clip of the Brazil Dinar Chorale, and this is WDET-FM, Detroit Public Radio, your connection to news, music, and conversation.